Here we go.
Hello and welcome everyone to Women's Speakers Association's WSA TV. I'm Laura Rubenstein, your host and producer. I'm also a digital media and marketing strategist. You can find me online at transformtoday.com. And I'm here in sunny California. And today's topic, we have a powerhouse team. And as you can see on the screen, this is where does personal power come from and how to find it. So both Shani and Dr. Jan are going to be enlightening us, and I want to get right to them and hear a little bit more about them. And I want to just say hi. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let's say hi to Dr. Jan.
Well, hello, Laura. Yes, I am Dr. Janet Bieschke. You can find me at www.drjanb.com. I am an end-of-life coach, and I love our topic for today. So I live in rural Wisconsin.
Oh, you're in the middle of the country. Great.
Yeah.
Glad to have you here. And Shani, how are you?
I am great. Thank you, Laura. Thanks for having me. Hi, Dr. Jan. I am here in Northern California. I'm safe. I'm well. I'm a relationship coach, and I'm excited to be here and talk about our personal power.
Yeah, and we're happy to have you here. Yes, because personal power is kind of the root of success. It's the root of happiness. So I'd like to know from each of you, what advice do you have to help people, really find this personal power? And Dr. Jan, as an end-of-life coach, I'm sure you deal with this all the time. So do share.
Oh my gosh, yes. And it starts with gratitude and appreciation for everything. When we find joy, when we're able to create the moments that matter with the people that matter while we still can, that's really being aware of the opportunities that we have and just using them and finding our joy.
Right. And so how can people start to do that, especially when they're, thinking of an end-of-life situation, either their own or someone else's?
If not now, when? It really has to do with the stories, the language that we use, the finding the meaning and the purpose, and being able to bring peace and closure at a time that they've come to a point where there's a lot of emotions, and it's really through the emotions, the thoughts, the beliefs, the feelings that we have the opportunities to create the best part of our ending final days.
It almost sounds like the best part of life in a sense, making
Like
those
the
connections.
frosting.
Right. And
Yeah.
Shani, I'm guessing you resonate with this information. And what advice do you have for people, adding to what Dr. Jan has shared?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Jan. I definitely believe being grateful for everything is the start. But also, with women, we have a hard time speaking up. And I just think it starts with the dialogue that we have with ourselves and being able to tell our truth and speak our truth from a place within ourselves. And my business is happy and love coaching. So I help women find their happiness, because once you can go in and pull that happiness out, you're able to communicate from that place. You're able to have successful relationships from that place. And it just really comes with what you're saying to yourself and your truth that you're speaking to yourself. Because if you don't understand what you want and what you're thinking, what your truth is, it's really hard to get what you want out of life, and let alone be able to communicate that with someone else. So that's pretty much.
And I would imagine that a lot of fear comes into play with communicating both of your ends. And Shani, I wanted to ask you, how do you recommend people deal with their fears of taking on their personal power? I mean, they're probably not thinking that, but really of communicating in a way that brings them that power.
I have a feel the fear and do it anyway. I call that fearlessness. Because there's a lot of fear. I have a lot of fear. I've had a lot of fear in my life, and it gets paralyzing. So you either, you activate yourself to move forward, or you stay stuck where you are. And at some point you just have to take the leap and make a choice, so really just activating that fearlessness, because fear is not going to go away. It's an emotion that we have. And when we acknowledge it and walk through it, we love ourselves more. We're that much more happy. We feel like we've accomplished something. And that gives us power to keep moving through anything that we might feel the fear of, from jumping off cliffs to like saying yes to someone who's asking to marry you. There's fear in all of it, but you just have to power through. That's the fearlessness that I help women bring about.
That's great philosophy. Feel the fear and do it anyway. It's so empowering, and that really is a way to find your power. And Dr. Chan, I imagine there's so much available, so much fear that goes on at end of life too, but maybe some fear that actually disappears as a result. I'm wondering how you would recommend people deal with their fear and being able to take on their power during this time.
I think that, like Shani said, you feel it and you work through it anyway. And sometimes when you think of your apprehension, which is another word for fear, if you change that to excitement and you think, what are the opportunities? How can I show up differently? What gifts are there in these final days? How can I communicate my love, my respect, what someone's taught me? How can I help them to find meaning in their life? Help them unravel those stories that have followed them for so long or that they've created. And how can I do that in such a way that it builds upon their legacy, that it helps the people that they're leaving behind? And in doing that, it really is finding your voice and understanding those emotions, the fear, the resentment. And so many times when I'm interviewing hospice patients, many times, young hospice patients who still have families and a lot that they're leaving behind. So I work with both the family and the person that's about to be leaving in such a way that they're able to come together and leave those stories as bonding moments and actually create some celebrations of life where they do a lot of the healing work. So yeah, as Shani said, getting past that fear is really powerful.
Yeah, and I love how you say, turn that fear into excitement. I had a wise person in my life say to me once, the difference between fear and excitement is breathing. Take a breath. You can do exactly what both of you said and turn that fear into excitement, and then have the courage to share the story or the emotion in a way that I know, Shani, you've talked about is not blaming, but it's rather from the heart. And I think you can say anything to anyone when you come from the heart. So you two are both examples of that. I want to know a little bit more about how you work with people in terms of, what you do, who do you work with, and what do you do? What are you passionate about doing with them? And I know you've mentioned a little bit more, but if you want to give us a little deeper dive into that quickly, that would be awesome. So Dr. Jan, please share.
Well, thank you, Laura. I work with families and the person that's about to be facing their end of life. And I really work with them to see the opportunities and find the love in there. And I get to hold time in some cases. I get to help them turn those moments into gifts for the people they're leaving behind. And I don't know if you have time for a quick story.
Sure.
One of my patients that I interviewed was a 65-year-old gentleman who had a history of bad choices, incarceration. Had he not been in hospice, he would have probably been in jail. And he did. He admits he made a lot of choices that were not in his best interest. But as he's leaving and he's in hospice, he has a 6-month-old son, his only child, that he's leaving behind. And he wanted this little guy to know that he had value, that his life was important, that he was here for a purpose. And so I interviewed this man with his 6-month-old son sitting in his lap, and he was able to tell his baby boy about his grandparents and his great-grandparents and how they came from good stock and they were good people and the things they had accomplished in his life. And his message to this little guy was, you can make choices. You come from good stock. You are not limited by what you have heard or read or know about me. And that message of hope is so powerful, because knowing we can and how we can versus we can't do this or we're not enough, that we're limited in some way, when we can move past that, as Shani says, we move past the fear, past those obstacles, then we find that there's a way to set a new message into play, and that becomes powerful. So this little guy, when he grows up and he can hear his dad, as he's cooing, he can hear his dad tell him what's valuable, what's good about him, how he has all of this in him and all those choices lying ahead of him. And it's just, it just makes you feel good. And I know it was all he talked about for his remaining days was how nice it was. It put his heart at peace. And that's really what it's about.
And what a beautiful story. And really taking on one's personal power is about, the opportunity to leave a legacy as
Yes.
well, and to change things for other people. So, Shani, I'd love to hear about how you're impacting people's lives. What do you do? Who do you do it for?
First, I want to say, Dr. Jan, I don't know how you do that without crying. That story, I'm like a sucker for those touching stories. I was so touched. I was like, don't cry, you're on camera. You don't know, like, it just really brings you into the heart. Like, wow, that's so powerful, Whew. So, but it's amazing. So what I do, I work with women mostly. And I just help them peel away the layers of hurt. So essentially, I'm taking the wounded woman into being the warrior woman and the powerful woman. Because a lot of times, there's a lot of hurt in our lives from growing up to when we start dating, and we never unpack our baggage per se. So I help women unpack that emotional baggage. What is it? For me, I had to get to the place of being so bogged down, thinking I was happy, and then just really saying, oh, I wasn't happy. And so where was my happiness? And it was underneath all these emotions of anger, of sadness, of being hurt in past relationships, yada, yada, yada. So I really help women peel back those layers and unpack the baggage so they can start to feel happy in their lives. And, where does it come from? I help women also connect to their blueprint that they were given. So like going back to that story, even though the child's 6 months, hearing that does something to his brain. So what we learn and what's put upon us when we're children is put into our brain. So really, when we get in these relationships and we're dealing with the same old, we're like, why do I keep getting this? We're operating from a system that was put into place, a blueprint that, we have to now just scrap and redo. If we want what we want out of life, it's up to us to just acknowledge where that came from and then say, no, wait a minute. I'm tired of having an abusive relationship. I'm tired of giving my power away and not having a voice. I'm tired of playing this role that's not my role, and to scrap it and say, now I am this. I am powerful. I'm self-empowered. I'm fearless. I'm liberated from all these emotions. And that's what I do.
That's powerful. And do you have a story about either how you've done it or you've helped someone do it specifically?
Ooh. Well, I can speak to my experience. Yes, I have helped women find their voices in unhappy marriages and relationships. But for me, I chose to have kids with somebody who's no longer there. And I've been a single mom since my kids were about 2 years old. And so through the years, have been bitter and I've been angry, and I was getting in relationships that were not what I wanted because I didn't realize I wanted a family and I wanted that unit. And so I was really settling for less than what I was worthy of. And so through my friends, just listening to other women's stories, I started to see where women were settling for less than what they were worthy of and saying they didn't want this and I don't want this, and they were so unhappy, but not really knowing how to just say, wait a minute, let me just first stop focusing on what I don't want and start calling in what it is that I do want. And so I just, through my own experiences of that, being like, wait a minute, I want this. This is what I want. And I kept focusing on the negative side and I brought it over to the positive side. And I just right now, just doing the work on myself, because who am I showing up as in relationships? And I think a lot of times it's nice for women to stop projecting onto the partner that they're not the good partner, and then do the work on themselves so that they're the partner that they want to mirror back for what they really want, so.
Amen. I got total chills on that one. Thank you so much. I moved because when I hear that, I know that there are so many women that will be benefiting from your work, both of your works as women and men, and their partners and their families and our communities and our world. You're changing the world one relationship at a time, one end of life at a time, and that's how we're going to move forward as a world. So here at Women Speakers Association, we have thought leaders who are passionate about moving this world into a more healed place. And so I wanted to hear from each of you about Women Speakers Association, the value you're already receiving from it, and so that other people who watch us might be inspired to join us who also have a passion. So Dr. Jan, would you like to say a little bit about your experience here?
Oh my gosh, yes, I would. As Shani said, we get the opportunity many times in life to rewrite our stories, to rethink our language, and to the Women's Speakers Association has shown me that no matter who it is, we all want to be heard. We want to know that our life had meaning. We want to learn how to forgive and to be forgiven. And in somewhere in there, it's expressing that connections, those relationships, the sharing our stories, and that's exactly what's happened. I was able to be blessed to be part of a collaborative effort this summer with the Speakers Association to be, I don't know if you can see that, voices of the 21st century, women who influence, inspire, and make a difference. And so I was able to be a collaborative author in that. But it came out at the same time that my other book did about my hospice stories, which was I'm Sorry, I Love You, Goodbye, Harvesting the Sacred Gifts of the Final Days. I wouldn't have done that as nicely had it not been for this organization. So I'm just loving the connections, the relationships, the bonding, and the opportunities that are coming from it. And so thank you, and thank everyone that's a part of that whole process. Gail Watson and Tracy, and it's just everyone I've met is amazing.
Really is a great organization, and
Yes.
Congratulations on your 2 books coming out at the same time. And I understand at least one of them is a best-selling book, right?
It is. International best-selling book, yes.
So that's a great benefit. Okay, and Shani, what benefits and value are you receiving from Women Speakers Association?
I am so excited to be part of this organization. I just to have a platform to network with other speakers, to put myself up as a speaker, to have people looking for me because they're looking for me is a wonderful thing. When I came across this, it was just like, I'm a part of it, and I feel very grateful, and I feel excited about what's to come and what's already happening right now in this moment. It's a beautiful thing. And, thank you, Women's Speaker Association. It's just, it's nice to have support, and it's nice to have other like-minded women, who have a message to be a part of that tribe. It's amazing. So thank you.
We really are here to support each other. And for those who are experiencing any challenges from the events going on in the world, our hearts go out to you. Please join us. We would love to just be another place you can come that's safe and supportive. You can join us for free at joinwsa.com. And we have a free level of membership. Or you can do what Dr. Jan and Shani have done and upgrade to the premier level. And what we do there is we help you get more visibility and show you the way to getting more speaking and get your message out in the world. So we invite you in. Thank you so much, Dr. Jan, Shani, for your hard work, your important work, and your message that's making a difference for so many, and letting them know that every one of them makes a difference. So we'll be back. Yeah.
Thanks, Laura.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Shani.
Thank you, Jan.
We'll be back.
We'll be in touch.
We'll definitely be in touch, and hang on there. But I'll let everybody know we'll be back for another episode in another couple of weeks. So have a great one.
Awesome.
Happy Thanksgiving to